Okay, and we are recording live one more time, back here for another Adobe Animate tutorial. So in this one, we're gonna talk about one of the most classic animation exercises that every animation school around the world does at some stage with the students, usually at the very beginning of the learning in animation. So this here is the bouncing ball. Okay, it may look a little bit like jittery at the beginning. Let me actually get the flash play. It's way too fast at 24 frames. I will adjust that. Better. So the bouncing ball is actually one of the first exercises that we do to explore another principle of animation called squash and stretch. So the idea of squash and stretch is that every object um, has some level of squash and stretch that helps the audience understand its weight and mass. Okay. Think about this ball, for example. So we can see that it starts very like pretty much like very round, very original, very natural. And then as it comes down, it starts to squish a bit. Okay. And then it squishes a bit more. And then when it hits the floor, it's got like almost flat to the floor because the force of the ball being thrown down here on the floor is actually strong enough to make it squash like this, squash and stretch. Okay. Um, I don't believe you can have one without the other. Squash and stretch, they walk hand in hand because you need to keep the volume of your objects constant. Okay. So every time you squash something, you have to stretch it as well. Okay. Otherwise, it's gonna look like this. And this is like way bigger than the ball that you had in the beginning. So to keep the volume of your objects constant, every time you stretch something, you gotta squash it as well, and vice versa. Okay, to an equal amount. So every time you get flatter, it should get wider, and every time it gets narrower, it should get longer. Okay, that is for the ball, for example. Okay, so every time it gets oh, should turn that into a symbol. All right. So every time it gets flatter, it should get wider. Okay, in the same ratio. And every time it gets longer, it should get narrower. Okay. Um, if you want to be like really, really, really exact, I believe you can pop in. There should be an option for rulers in here. Okay. Um, so you would be able to like measure all of your animations. Okay. Again, at this stage, you don't have to be fully exact. If you just eyeball, got it. If you just eyeball your squash and stretch at this stage, it should be fine. Okay. The way to do squash and stretch in Adobe Animate is with the free transform tool. This one here, Q. So when you press Q on a symbol, this box comes around it just like the one that you have for free transformation in Photoshop. So that way you can do this, you can do this, and if you change your anchor point, you can, of course, adjust it by that point of reference. Okay. Please have in mind that squash and stretch also applies to characters, not just to objects. Okay. This actually gives them more life. Okay, it makes them look more believable. Okay, and this is one of the hardest things to achieve with animations, to make actions and things and feelings that look believable to the audience. Okay, so that is actually pretty quick, pretty simple. That's what we have for squash and stretch for the bouncing ball. Okay, try getting a bouncing ball right in a couple of frames. I managed to do mine in 29 frames because I'm at 12 FPS. So let me go back to 24. There you go. 29 frames was enough for me to get my bouncing ball going. There we go. It's very fast. It's very fast. So if it's fast like that, one thing we can do is, this is the 3-second mark. Let's get it all and extend to the 3-second mark. Let's get with the flash viewer. Still not 100%, but you get the idea. Have a look here at the onion skin as well, and how the ball behaves as it goes around. Have in mind that, of course, every time the ball hits the floor and bounces, it loses some power. Okay, that's why each arc should be smaller than the previous one. Okay, so big jump, big arc, medium arc, small arc, and then just rolls out to stop. You notice here at the end as well that the frames are close to each other. That means it's slowing down until it stops. Okay, let's get this last jump here to loop so you can have a look. You see at the end after the last jump, it just rolls out and stop.